Good day. On today's video, we'll be looking at Linux. So, first, before we go deep into Linux, we have to understand what Linux is. So, Linux is a popular open source operating system based on the Unix like kernel. It was originally created by Linus in 1991. It is re-owned for its security, flexibility, and stability. Right? It is distributed among various distros or distributions, like we call them. We have Ubuntu, we have Fedora, we have Kali Linux, like the one displayed on the screen. We have Linux Mint and many other Linux operating systems. So Linux is widely used on our Android phones. They use Linux in the creation of our Android phones. They use Linux on web servers too. So we are going to be understanding the Linux operating system using commands to navigate the Linux operating system. So you may ask, why are we using commands to navigate the Linux operating system? Unlike the Windows operating system that has a GUI, the graphical user interface, the Linux operating system does not have that, right? Or yeah, it does. It basically does not have that, right? So how do we navigate the Linux operating system? I'm going to show you the basic commands we use in the navigation of the Linux operating system. So before we use the commands, we have to open up our terminal. So our terminal is basically where we write our commands and see our output, right? So the little black icon at the top here is our terminal. It's our command line. So open it. So this is our terminal. Okay, so this is where we're going to be writing our commands to navigate the Linux operating system. So the first command we'll be looking at is the who am I? Who am I command. So what does the who am I command do? It tells us who we are or which the current user we are on the system at that particular time. It tells us our current user at the particular time. So when we type who am I, it tells us we are Kali. Because if you look here, you can see it tells us username at Kali. So my username for this system is Kali. That's why it shows Kali as the username. So the who am I command tells us which user we are currently using at the moment. Okay. So the next command we're going to be looking at is the present working directory command, which is pwd. So the present working directory command, it tells us where we are at the moment. For instance, the difference between the who am I and the PWD is who am I tells us who we are, and PWD, which is the present working directory, tells us where we are at that moment. When we type this down, tells us we're in the home directory of the Kali user, the home directory of the Kali user. So when I say directory, directory is similar to folders. We call folders on Windows, but in Linux we call them directories. Okay. So that's the difference. That is the who am I command, and that's the present working directory command. So the next command we're going to be looking at is the ls. So what does the ls command do? The ls command lists the contents or the files and directories in our current directory where we are. The files and directories in the current directory where we are. So now we know we are in the home directory of the Kali user. So when we type ls, we can see directories in our current directory where we presently are. So you can see we have the desktop directory, documents, downloads, music, pictures, and so on. So these are the directories where we currently are. That is what the ls command does, right? So why it's actually useful, you may create a file and you don't know where you are, or you don't know the files are and your destination. So you can use the ls command to list the files and directories so you understand what to do next. Okay, so the next command we'll be looking at is the cd command. Cd command. So what does the cd command do? It changes directories. We use it to change directory, or like I said, directory is also known as folders. So we use the cd command to change directories. So for instance, we want to go into our documents folder. We use this cd command and then specify where we want to go to. So say cd documents. And now we are in the documents directory. We can also use the pwd to see our current destination. So we say pwd, and it tells us we're in the home directory, Kali user, and also the document directory. Just like it shows here, we're in the document directory. Okay, so that is first three commands we're looking at. So now, what if we want to go back to the previous directory one step back? We use the cd dot, that is two full stops, cd of two full stops. When we say cd two full stops, it takes us one step back. It takes us from the documents directory back to the home directory where we came from. So when we do pwd again, it tells us we are in the home directory. So the next command we'll be looking at is the touch command. The touch command. So what does the touch command do? Touch command is used to create a file. Is used to create an empty file. So the touch command is used to create an empty file. We have files and we have directories. Files are just plain text files, Python files, while directories are folders. We can store files inside them, but we can't store file inside a file. We can store file inside the directory. So we are going to use the touch command to create a file. Touch, and then we specify what we want our file to be called. So for instance, I'll call it earlycode.txt. So I have to put the text extension so we don't confuse ourselves. I always use the text extension when creating an empty file so we don't confuse ourselves. So this is touch earlycode.txt, and when we list our content, you can see the earlycode.txt file has been created over here. If you look up, you can see when we did ls at the top, there was no earlycode.txt file, but when we created the file using the touch command, we saw the earlycode.txt. So now, what if we want to write something inside the file? Like I said, the touch command is to create an empty file. What if we want to write something inside the file? We use the nano command. The nano command is like a text editor. We use it to create files, and we can use it to write or edit a text file. Right? So for instance, we want to create a file named, let's say code.txt. We want to create a file named code.txt. We use the nano command to still create a new file, but when we want to write something inside the file. So we say nano code.txt, enter. So when we run our command, you can see brought out a text editor where we can write anything we want to write and write anything at all. So in this text file, on this text editor, I'm going to write cybersecurity. I love cybersecurity. So how do we save this file? We use the Control S save, and we use Control X to exit. The Control S for snake to save and Control X for X-ray to exit. So when we type ls, you can see our code.txt file has been created. Our code.txt file has been created. So now that is how to create a file with two different methods. So we have the touch command and we have the nano command. So the touch command is to create an empty file, while the nano command is like a text editor when we want to write the content in a file. Okay. So the next command we're going to be looking at is the cat command. So what if we want to view the contents of what we wrote in the code.txt file? We use the cat command. So it's cat code.txt. I'm going to click enter. You can see the text we wrote earlier, I love cybersecurity, has been displayed out for us to view. So the cat command, also known as concatenate, is used to view the content of a file. It's used to view the content of a file. Okay. So the next command we're going to be looking at is the mkdir command. So the mkdir is used to create a directory. So we know we have desktop downloads, music, public videos, documents, and so on. All those directories. What if we want our own directories? We want to create our own directories with our own name of choice. We use the mkdir command, which stands for make directory. And then we specify the name of the directory we want to use. So I'm going to be using the name earlycode. So I'll say earlycode. And when I list the content of the file, you can see my directory earlycode has been created. Earlycode directory has been created, and we can also move into the directory. Like I said earlier, I'll use the cd command to move into a directory or to change directory. So say cd and earlycode. You can see when I do pwd, tells me I am in the earlycode directory now. The home directory of the Kali user, which is the earlycode directory. And I said if we want to go back one step, we cd dot. Okay, so the next command we are going to be looking at is the copy command. What if we want to copy a text file to one of these directories? We want to copy the text file to one of these directories. How do we do that? We use the cp command. Cp means to copy, right? So we say cp and specify the name of the file we want to copy. It's earlycode or txt. Right, so copy earlycode.txt. Where do we want to copy it to? We have to specify where we want to copy it. So we say earlycode. We want to copy it to the earlycode directory, and then we click that. So it didn't show us any error and it didn't bring out any message of success. So we have to verify. So it tells us that the file has been copied to the earlycode directory. And how do we view? So we say cd earlycode. So we've changed our directory to the earlycode directory. So now when we list our contents, you can see we have the earlycode.txt file already created. So the cp, so which means copy the name of the file to the destination. But that is the easiest way for you to remember. Copy the name of the file to the destination. So we go back one step. After running our command. So like I said earlier, we use cd dot dot. So the next command we're going to be looking at is the move command. We're going to be moving our file from a destination to another destination. But before we use the move command, we have to list our files and directories first, so we know what we're actually moving. So say ls, and then we see our files and directories, right? So the move command, we use mv, and then same thing like the copy command, we specify the file we want to move. But first, before we do that, the mv command is used to do two things. It's used to rename a file and is also used to move a file. It's used to rename a file and to move a file. So I'll show you how to rename first before we move the file. Okay. So we say move mv. I want to rename the file code.txt. So I want to rename it to earlycode.txt in all caps. Earlycode.txt in all caps. That is everything in all uppercase. So I click enter, and this is our file. Sorry. Notes. Yeah, I forgot to say this earlier, but Linux is case sensitive. So we are moving into the documents directory, and instead of typing C uppercase T, then we do DOC. It's going to give us an error which says no such file or directory, so it is case sensitive. So when we list our files, you can see the code.txt has changed to earlycode.txt in all caps using the mv command. So we say mv rename the file to the new name you want to rename it to. So now let's use the mv command to move the earlycode.txt in uppercase to the earlycode directory or earlycode folder. So we say mv, then we specify earlycode, sorry, earlycode.txt. Then we specify our destination we want to move it to, which is earlycode folder. right? So when we click enter, you can see the earlycode.txt in uppercase is no more in our current directory. So let's go into our earlycode directory and see if it's there. To see the earlycode. And when we list some files, you can see the earlycode in .txt in uppercase has been moved to the earlycode folder. Okay, so that is all for the basic commands on the Linux operating system. I'll see you in the part 2. Thank you.